So here we can find what is the problem. The problem here, how we call this one, since in C sharp it's different than VB, and if we compile again we have no problem, and if we go to the code again with this date and we submit, we'll find another error. Invocation to double can't implicitly convert type string to double, since we created the hours as double and the data of the field is a string. This is a fantastic way to debug the code of the process and see where is the problems. So here we have to cast this value into hours. Now to cast that, we may say to int to integer, compile a view, and here for example 80. We go again and we see what is the problem. So we move out of that block, we can go again, and here we can see that a string does not contain a definition of to integer. This is the way we can debug the code. Either it's a low code or more than that, we can write that completely here into the system to see how is it. Now for the users or the admin users who do not know C sharp, for example, and they can program using VB or vice versa, it's easy to do that within the system, easily to do the following. Here in the system we need to see how to put this. Now for this one, the type is double. Since it's double, we can go to a main template, which is the timesheet template, this one, and here we find that in VB it's double, but how it's written in C sharp, we can change the code here into C sharp and generate the class again, and the system tells that it's double. Now here things are easy to copy that without changing anything into the system, and here we delete this and here we cast it into double. And in this case, if we compile a view again and here we put 80, 12, submit, can't convert a string to double. So what to do in this case? In this case we have to parse this into double, and this is mainly the difference between C sharp and VB, where VB explicitly cast all data types into others, but here in C sharp things are different. But for the users who are writing C sharp, they can do all of these things easily. Now the other thing to do here, what is it? Here we can open this version again, which is timesheet, and go to the code again here, but we need it to be VB, not C sharp. Since my experience is VB, then I prefer that, and here we write the code as VB. And here we tell dim this as object, and we remove these semicolons from here and compile our code, save, and we view it again with the AP again here and submit. We find that added into the system database. So this is the first step to do that in 3TB, but the case is not always like this. Sometimes we need to post these details to an authorizer to authorize it before saving that into the database. So what to do in this case? It's easy to be done through the Virgin workflow. The Virgin workflow, we tell the system what buttons we need to show to the user. Here we tell the user that there's and the drag and drop, and we tell that we need this button which is submit. So we delete this save, and in this submit here we go to the system and delete that one, the previous submit button, and here we add workflow buttons instead. So we find this black button here. This black button is this case here in this one. So if we come to this option and we here put or select the multilingual, which is submit, here we find this option, submit button. Go again to the designer, we find it submit. The color is black, we need to change it. So we come here and change that from the line color. So we put, for example, this blue one. Come again here, we find this button like this. In this case, what we have to do, we tell the system, here we can put all the options as buttons that will appear to the user. And also we tell the system when the user clicks on this button, we need to send it to a queue. For example, here we have initiator queue, a queue for the user who created this process, and a user queue for a specific user. Let's try that together. And here we tell that when this button is clicked, drag, drop here, we tell the system move to this queue. This queue for whom? This is for the user named admin2, for example. And admin2 will have some options. These are the options. When this is assigned to him, we click here. We have, for example, accept or reject. This is by default. We can delete them, and from here we go to the property and we can add more options. But in this case we can go to this accept and find accept language like this one, for example, and this reject one, reject, and this is the workflow is done. Now how to test that and how to see that everything is working well? If we go to this viewer, here we find this button which is submit. When we submit that, it will go to admin2 user. Now if we go to admin2, here we find the process reference is empty. Why? Because for this process, when we tell that it's a data process, means there's a workflow, then we should tell the system that is data process is yes, and then we have to select the process type. For this process type, how is it and how is the reference of this process is created? This is done from the system. Here we create a new process type which is time